let's continue now. All right. In Tibet, religion and everyday life, at least before the arrival of the Chinese invasion in 1950, was inextricably entwined into a unique theocracy. Before the Chinese invasion of 1950, every Tibetan family, rich or poor, worshipped daily at household shrines, from palaces and hovels to nomadic tents. An area was set aside, usually in a corner, in which devotional objects were put in place. This was, of course, in addition to the, thousands of monasteries and nunneries that were scattered across the frozen and barren landscape. Thousands of shortens or stupas, these are, of course, types of shrines, were erected as monuments to their saints, Buddhist saints. Yes, Buddhists have saints, Bodhisattvas, as repositories for offerings and sacred relics. Sadly, most of these were destroyed by the Chinese Red Guards during the Cultural Revolution of the late 1960s. Thousands of prayer flags were hung from poles and draped over rooftops. Each flutter of these prayer flags, it was said, sent the prayers written on them up towards the sky and into the heavens. Also unique to Tibet is the Mani Suskor, the prayer wheel. The prayer wheel is a metal cylinder that ranges in length from 2 inches to an amazing and colossal 9 feet. The prayer wheel contains a long scroll of paper bearing countless repetitions of the mystical, all-powerful Tibetan prayer, Mani Padre Hum, which means Hail, Jewel in the Lotus. The actual meaning of this prayer remains somewhat obscure. Every time the metal cylinder is rotated, it is believed that a stream of prayers ascends skyward into heaven. The most common of these prayer wheels is the small individual hand-rotated kind. This is made of copper or silver attached to a wooden handle, which are often beautifully decorated. A metal weight on a small chain is attached to the metal cylinder. This enables the user to whirl the prayer wheel at high speeds. Now, these larger mega prayer wheels, which, as I mentioned, can reach up to 9 feet, were found and still can be found in the few surviving monasteries. They contain as many as 1 million repetitions of the Jewel in the Lotus mystical formula. These immensely heavy and giant wheels are rotated by a hand crank or by wind or water power, allowing hundreds of millions of mystical Jewel in the Lotus invocations to be released skyward into the heavens with a minimum of effort. Another aid to prayer is the Tibetan Rosary. This is my favorite, of course, which is usually made from bone, often human bone, but it's also made from coral and, of course, wood. And remember, wood is a very precious and rare commodity in Tibet. The Tibetan Rosary always has 108 beads. 108 is a sacred number to the Tibetans. A bead is slipped each time a prayer is repeated until a complete circle of the sacred rosary has been made. 2 or more secondary strings are also attached to the rosary. Each string consists of 10 much smaller beads. These are used to register each complete circle of the rosary. Unusual practices also illustrate the Tibetan attitude towards life and death and the immense power of their faith. For example, self-immurement, in which a hermit would spend a length of time in a type of solitary confinement. The hermit would be walled up in a pitch-black cave from anything ranging from a few months to a lifetime this lifetime solitary confinement, was a type of slow form of suicide that enabled the devotee to avoid the endless cycle of rebirth and achieving nirvana in a single lifetime. The only human contact this individual would have is a gloved hand each day. This hand would pass food and water through a tiny hole in the wall. Some individuals managed to occupy these cave cells for as many as 40 to 50 years in total pitch black silence. Now, in the West, these monks did similar things in the West, where they were known as anchorites.